it is not a dream. Your Montreal Canadiens have won 3 games in a row for the first time this season.
Yeah, let's
Welcome to the
go.
post-game show, everybody. Your Montreal Canadiens win 5-2 against the Toronto Maple Leafs. I do not think we were expecting that tonight, but Shane, Adrian, Damon, thank you so much for joining me. Everybody, welcome to the channel. If you are not subscribed already, please press that subscribe button, that like button, and don't forget to share, tell your friends. And boys, how are we feeling after this ginormous win?
You know what? It's like you have no expectations, and then your expectations are just met above and beyond. It's pretty spectacular what we saw tonight, especially coming from a back-to-back. Right, we played yesterday, and we won. What a game it was! But a back-to-back, 3 wins in a row, coming off of a 10-game losing streak. And what is that one factor that changed? The guy behind the bench. You know, you don't have to look very far. You do have to look down because he's not very tall, but you don't have to look very far. What a beauty Martin St. Louis is, and he is really revived this team. I mean, it's a completely different squad.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. Like I was telling you guys before we hopped on the show, was I also just see, to add to what I said, was I see like a difference in the team. They're playing with a lot more passion. I could see the way they're moving the puck. They're playing with a lot more heart. And obviously, like having a guy like Marty St. Louis behind the bench, you're gonna listen to him. You know, you're gonna, whenever he tells you something, and you're gonna, you know, and it's just great to see that, you know, the team looks like they're starting to gel. That first line with Suzuki, Caufield, Anderson is looking pretty mixed. So good all around. I think, you know, maybe a new voice was needed. And obviously a guy like him, who I think he's, and again, a tremendous leader in his day too, a guy who's won a cup and a Hall of Famer, you know, that can get a young group going for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just a beautiful game. No, not enough words can describe how great it was, especially the fact that the Marty St. Louis effect has been taking effect and the guys have been playing at free will. Petrie's just been under a point per game ever since he took over, and we might not have to retain salary if we trade him, or even Petrie might want to stay after this. You never know. And Cole has really found his game again, and it's just so amazing to see. And we're also getting to see the playmaking side of Cole's game, especially. Cole is such a nice release on the shot, and even very well offensively aware, and he's really good at passing the puck around.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about, I think that's going to be the main topic of tonight's postgame, is that first line. You've got Suzuki, Caufield, and Josh Anderson, who are playing like absolute beasts, especially tonight. You've got Martin St. Louis, who said that he doesn't see that line being separated anytime soon, and I think we can all agree it's probably for the best. So let's talk about, first of all, Josh Anderson, who could have netted easily 5 to 6 goals tonight, got robbed by Mrazek at one point. We had Nick Kyprios on the show with our other host, Drew Deeks. If you missed it, please make sure to catch it. Nick Kyprios mentioned that Josh Anderson was generating a lot of talk throughout the league. So I want to get you guys' take on, if the price is right, is this another player that you move, or the way that he's playing on that first line, is he a keeper? Shane, what do you think?
I mean, the team would have to overpay by a mile. Like you can't get Anderson at this moment for Anderson's value. And I think Kent Hughes has said that he, like, any team that wants Josh Anderson will have to overpay by a lot. And so I don't know what exactly that would look like, how many picks, how many prospects we need. But, you know, if a team really, really wants him, they will overpay. And I mean, at a certain point, like, we love him and we want to keep him, but you got to look long term. And if the offer is just too good, you got to take it. But unless nobody overpays, then no, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I personally would like to see him stay on the roster. I mean, I think he's a young player, and he's a guy that fits well on this Habs team. I mean, I haven't seen a player like him, with like a big guy like him with power forward with speed like that, and I don't know if I ever have on this Montreal Canadiens team, you know. And I would like to see him stay, but again, like Shane said, if, you know, if the offer is like absolutely like you know, can't match it, like no one else can match it, then you kind of got to make the, you to make the move, and I think that would be the best way to go. I personally would like to see him through the rebuild, but obviously, the way the team is heading right now, you probably would have to take offers or listen to offers on pretty much everybody. So, yeah.
I agree. The thing is, for me right now with Anderson is I'd like to see him stay for the long-term future. That's why he's locked up for the long term. And if there's somehow an offer that we can't refuse, let's say it's like a couple of first-round picks and a couple of prospects that will be in the NHL, and it's something you can't refuse, you might have to go for that. But I'd love to keep him. He's such a good player, so talented, and he's a player that you can't really find anywhere else in the league.
That's
His
it.
his leadership is something else too. Cole Caufield now, since being under Martin St. Louis, Cole Caufield is a different type of beast. He's had 8 points in his first 30 games, and now he's got a couple goals, a couple assists. He's playing top line minutes. A brand new man. So do we anticipate Cole Caufield to keep playing like this? And is he going to be that type of player going forward? Or is this just what everybody's calling the honeymoon phase with Martin St. Louis?
That's it. It's 8 points in 6 games. It's ridiculous. Coming off of what you said, 8 points in 30 games.
Yeah.
I mean, the difference is mind blowing. I've never seen anything like that. A coach that can really revive a player like that. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. But I mean, we always knew that Cole had it in him. He just needed that good chemistry. He needed those minutes. He needed those opportunities, and he's getting all of that right now. And look what's happening. 3-point night tonight. I mean, he played 16 minutes, 2 shots on goal, 1 hit, 1 takeaway. He was phenomenal. Again, we've been saying it for the past 6 games now. He is one of the best players on the team every night. He shows up, and even though he's 5'7" or something, he plays like he's 6 foot tall. He doesn't give a shit. Like, he gets knocked down, gets right back up, and goes scores a goal. Like, that's the guy you want. That's what we drafted. And if we send him down to Laval, I don't know at this point. Or I guess the rest of the season, like, there's still too many games to really decide. Because he's gelling so well with Suzuki and Anderson, you might want to, maintain that relationship and that chemistry. But, if there's an opportunity for a Calder Cup in Laval, maybe he wants that opportunity, that experience there. So remains to be seen. But for now, my goodness, what a beauty.
Yeah, that's a good point about him potentially going back to Laval. Maybe if they're going to make a playoff push. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Obviously, it'd be good. Again, he's playing with a ton of confidence again. He looks happy out there. He looks like he's enjoying being on the ice again. For a while, he didn't look, he didn't look comfortable. Obviously, his confidence was pretty low, and it was hard to see, right, with a kid with so much talent. It's crazy how a coaching change could just like Shane said, just completely revive a player, right? So I'd like to see him stay up with the big club. But if there's a situation, I mean, it's looking like we're not going to make the playoffs, right? But if there's a situation where, Laval's in the hunt for the Calder Cup, why not send him down, let him get that exposure, get a championship and all that. So I think it would be good.
I completely agree. If he can get that Calder Cup count down there in Laval, it would be such a nice experience. And also, as I'm sure we know, Laval unfortunately lost today. I think it was 5-2 to the Marlies, but we're still hanging in there and hanging tight into a playoff spot despite all the injuries. And once more guys get healthy, we could start sending players down there. We could send Dolphin down there. And even if you want to just give it a try for the fun of it, maybe Paquette down there.
Yeah, he won't get claimed.
Paquette's future is a little bit uncertain right now. I was going to touch on somebody else, but first I want to touch on this comment here because it's going to bring us to the defense topic. So for me personally, Petrie in his last 3 or 4 games has been completely different. A big 360 from him. He's been involved. He's been scoring. He's been averaging points. He looks a little bit more happier on the bench, especially when they're scoring. So I'm going to have to kindly disagree with your comment here to say that Petrie's invisible. The last few games for me, he's turned it around. So I want to get you guys' take on Jeff Petrie. And do we have the possibility of maybe losing Ben Sherratt this week? If so, what happens with our defense?
That's it. For Petrie, I mean, it's another assist tonight. He didn't have a phenomenal game. I mean, he did have 5 turnovers, which was a team high, but a +2, 1 shot, 1 hit, 2 blocks, still very decent. He's slowly but surely coming back to the good old Petrie days, and in a sense, boosting his trade value. There's no hiding the fact that teams are calling for him. To get Petrie in the form that he was last season, that's a pretty big find for a team going in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So if he can keep up like that, I'm happy. If he wants still to get traded, by all means, we'll listen to offers. It's all in Kent and Jeff's hands. But I mean, for now, I'm happy with what he's doing. It's not perfect, but it's okay. And I mean, for Sherratt, I just don't want him to get injured. That's really the big concern here, playing him and waiting for that trade, because it's going to happen. We've said it numerous times. Kent has said it himself in a press conference that Ben will likely be traded. So it's going to happen, but I just hope he doesn't get injured, man. Every game he plays, I'm just, don't hit him. Oh, don't get hit. Oh, shit. Go to the bench. I'm always scared because we can't have him hurt before the trade deadline. That would be detrimental.
Yeah, for sure. Going back to Petrie, though, I want to kind of reiterate on that. He has been playing better. I've noticed a little bit. I've tried to catch as many games as I could last week, and even yesterday and stuff like that. But he's played well. I've seen a little bit of an improvement in him. I think, obviously he asked for a trade with the whole family situation there, but if he still wants a trade and wants to go to a contender and go on a cup run, I totally get it. I think you could still get a good value for him. It's the name recognition that'll definitely get Montreal a good value back, even though he's had a not so great season. Mm-hmm. So I think for both parties, maybe for him to go to another team and try to make a cup run might be good for both teams. So I think that would be the best for both. On Ben Sherratt, I agree with Shane. I hope he just doesn't get hurt, because I remember a couple weeks ago he got hurt for a couple of games and we were all freaking out. I was like, no, he better not be hurt before the deadline. So definitely could get a first rounder for Sherratt. I heard that's been the asking price. A lot of the insiders on TSN and stuff have been saying that. So if they can get a first rounder for him and just get as many draft picks for the next year or two with a lot of the assets that might be available, I think we're gonna be in good hands for a bit.
Good point there. Just one thing I want to touch on with Sherratt, as I'm sure we know, my biggest fear right now is it becomes a Tom Gilbert situation, as I'm sure you remembered in 2015-16. We were supposed to get a second-round pick, I'm pretty sure, for Tom Gilbert, and then he got injured against Philadelphia a couple of weeks before the deadline, and we got nothing. So that's my big fear with Sherratt. I just say, like we do play him to show that he's healthy, but we don't use him in too many special teams or too many situations where he could get hurt. But Petrie, you never know. You never know if he might like St. Louis, and then if his family might decide that they like the city. But that's totally their business. But I'm still kind of conflicted about losing him. I do respect Jeff's wishes, but I wouldn't be opposed to the idea of him deciding to stay here in Montreal if he wants to. So yeah, ever since St. Louis took over, he's been just under a point per game. So that's definitely been a really good sign of things. And he's still without Joel Edmondson. And with Joel Edmondson, we all remember that people were rumoring him for the Norris, which he wasn't nominated for, but he did play in a high-scoring division last year. So Jeff Petrie is definitely going to be a very interesting case to follow over the next few weeks, or even up until the draft.
Yeah. Joel Edmondson's case is still a little bit up in the air. It was released this week that he might need surgery. They're considering all aspects to his back right now. So I'm personally not expecting him back this season. Let the kid rest, get him the treatment he needs. So hopefully he can come back next season. Let's talk about Rem Pitlick for a second. So this kid gets picked up, comes onto this team, and he's a little spark plug. Been scoring, been involved. He's absolutely amazing to listen to when he does his post games. Do you guys see him sticking around next year?
No doubt. I mean, him and Pezzetta have been revelations this year. Guys that were so under the radar, we weren't even looking at them, and I consider them part of the team full time now. Going into next season as well. I mean, look at yesterday's game and the shootouts. That move was disgusting. It was so nice. And then tonight again, he tries it again on Mrazek, loses control. But then again, goes on a 2-on-1 with Galley, and Galley with a nice pass for the goal. So he's been on fire ever since he got here. So I'm really loving him, and shout out to Galley too, because 2 assists tonight. He played really well, and on that Pitlick goal, correct me if I'm wrong, he was on the ice for like a minute 50, and he went the distance. He went the distance and had a nice pass to Pitlick for the goal. So big shout out to those 2 guys. I thought they had a really good game.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Shane, and I would love to see Rem Pitlick stay with the Habs past this season. I mean, he's been a pretty pleasant surprise. I mean, this team's had a lot of good luck with waiver claims, like back in 2015 with Paul Byron and Brett Kulak has become his own, and now Pitlick's been unreal. That scoring chance on Mrazek on the breakaway, man. The speed. He was just wheeling down the middle, and I'm like, wow, this guy has so much potential. And I was looking at his stats too. In Minnesota, they weren't bad, like they were pretty good. And I was kind of surprised that they exposed a guy like that on waivers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So overall, yeah, I'd love to see him stay. Guys like him and Josh Anderson they're just clicking, right? I think those are guys you want to have on your team in the future for sure.
No doubt.
Yeah, I'd really like to see Rem Pitlick stay also, because as I'm sure we know, his brother Rhett's in our system, and just imagine them on the line one day together. So
Nice.
Rem Pitlick, even though just this season he's been really good, I do know that Minnesota and Nashville both put him on waivers, and he got claimed both times. But this time in Montreal, he's proven that he's here to stay. And one guy I'm just going to touch on quickly, can't seem to catch a break on waivers, is Adam Brooks.
Poor guy. He's done
I know.
like 4 or 5 different moves this year.
Yeah, he's becoming Mark Arcabello of 2015-16.
Jeez, man.
100%. Let's talk Samuel Montembeault and Andrew Hammond. So we got a chance to finally see Andrew Hammond yesterday played his first NHL game in 1425, if I'm not mistaken. Gets a W against the Islanders, which not an easy thing to do. I thought he looked absolutely great. Very cool, calm, and collected between the pipes.
Yeah.
How are we feeling going forward, having Samuel and Andrew between the pipes? Do we keep alternating like we've been these past 2 games? Do we stick with Samuel Montembeault and put Andrew when we got back-to-backs? What would you guys do for that situation?
I wouldn't mind a 50-50 split, actually. I think Hammond deserves some starts. He's been poor guy's been in the minors and riding the bench for so long. Might as well get him on the ice. We saw what he can do. He was brilliant against the Islanders, and Montembeault, same thing. I mean, 35 saves tonight is no small feat, especially against Toronto. That's a 946 save percentage for a team that's been having a hard time staying above 900. So those 2 guys, I'm really not favoring any of them. Like 50-50 split, I think is fair for both of them. And I mean, we're getting good results out of it too.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I'm okay with the 50-50 split for the rest of the season. I mean, Hammond had a good game yesterday afternoon, and obviously Montembeault has been pretty stellar as of late. He played great against, he played on Thursday against the Blues, and won tonight, obviously, 35 saves. I'm okay with a 50-50 split. I think they're both good. They're both proving that they should split the time. They're playing well. And yeah, I mean, next year, my big question is who's going to be the backup goalie next year, because now you have Jake Allen, you got Montembeault and Hammond, right? So there might be a little bit of a goaltending controversy in Montreal.
More competition, right? The guys are fighting for a spot. They know it too. They know that same thing, right? So I know Monty and Hammond are definitely battling there for sure.
Yep. The way I see it right now with the situation, we do have two very good goalies, in my opinion, Montembeault and Allen. Like they're very good, like at what they do and what they're here for. They're here to fill in right now while Price and Allen recover from injuries. And right now, the way I would go about it's a bit more of a 60-40 approach, where Montembeault takes on 60% of the load and Allen takes on. Hammond takes on 40% of the load.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the way kind of I'd approach it right now, because
enough.
Montembeault, in my opinion, is the better goalie, and Hammond's been working so hard to get to where he is in his career and definitely deserves some playing time. And I definitely think that Hammond, while he's up here, should get that playing time. And also, if we look on maybe shipping him once Allen gets healthy again, maybe he could fetch us some value.
So if we're taking a look at next year, it's going to be a goalie headache for this organization. So you've got guys like McNiven, Primo, you've got Poulain, who's basically going everywhere right now as well. Do we look at trading maybe Jake Allen if the price is right and keeping Montembeault as a solid backup? Do you send Montembeault in the AHL to back up Primo, and then you keep Andrew Hammond to back up Carey if Carey comes back? And then what about if Carey just doesn't come back?
That's it.
Who's your starter in September next year?
Yeah, Kent and Jeff are definitely gonna get a headache with that one. Because there's so much to consider, right? Montembeault has an NHL contract, so if he goes to the AHL, he has to be put on waivers. He'll definitely get picked up, looking at what we're seeing. So
Yeah,
if we don't plan on keeping him, a trade would be the best move. And then what do you do with Hammond? Would he get picked up on waivers? And then Allen would be a hot commodity depending on his health. If he's healthy, if he can actually help a team get into the playoffs and then go far, he could actually fetch us a good return. So again, thank you, Carey Price, for the expansion draft, for letting us keep Jake Allen, because now we might be actually able to get a big return instead of losing him for nothing. But if we can actually find a good trade that benefits us, I'm all for it. I love Jake Allen, love him, but logistically it makes sense. It really does.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that too, right? Because, obviously, if Carey Price comes back next year, the goaltending situation in Montreal is going to be pretty backlogged. So maybe a trade before the season, before training camp, maybe you see Jake Allen go to a team. I would like maybe to be a starter. I think he can do it.
Yeah.
Last year during the shortened season, he did the job to get us to the playoffs, and obviously to go into the Stanley Cup Finals, right? Obviously, Price played, but during the regular season, he paved the way and he did great. So I think again, you can definitely get a good return for him. Maybe you can see Andrew Hammond playing in the American League for Laval. Maybe I would like to either or. I'd be okay with keeping Allen as the backup, or Montembeault, or Hammond. Either or, I think could be okay. But if you can get a good return for Jake Allen, I think that would probably be the most logical solution.
Yeah.
If you're in a situation where Carey Price doesn't come back, then you obviously got to keep everybody on board. So that's how I think.
Yep. There's so many variables in the situation. I kind of like seeing how this will turn out, because it's definitely a lot to look forward to in the future to see. For example, depending if we go for the full rebuild, which it looks like, I would say you kind of trade Jake Allen and get a good return. I could see a couple of early picks, and when I say early, maybe second round pick, maybe a couple of seconds and a third. You can get even a prospect. You can get quite a bit for Allen, in my opinion, because he's definitely someone who's starter capable. But the thing is with Allen is he's probably going to be one of those goalies who splits tandem, maybe 60-40 for Allen. And with Montembeault, you could maybe stick him as the backup, but have him play a lot, because as I'm sure we know, Carey Price, where he is in his career, he's definitely been an injury-prone goalie. There's no secret there. And you could have Montembeault take a lot of those games as well. And Hammond, you could maybe, I don't know if you could sign him to a two-way contract. I'm not fully sure on his contract right now, whether it's one-way or two-way, or if it's NHL or AHL, but there's definitely a lot of ways to approach it, and I'm definitely really excited to see how it can turn out.
So before we log off with you guys tonight, so I just want to touch on what Martin Saint-Louis said in his presser right now. So he's saying in French, I'll just translate that, Confidence is growing, the swagger is growing, and we're believing in ourselves. The feel good is there. It's important to have success, and that's what those 3 games mean. So, stringing not only 2 games in a row for the first time this season last night, we're stringing a 3rd one tonight. Where do we see this week going? Do we see this team going back to their old ways? Is this a honeymoon phase? Or do we see this team constantly improving until the end of the season and we finish in a top 3 area?
Yeah, it's
Sorry,
a
bottom
tough.
3.
That's it. It's a tough situation because, right, we've been talking about the tank. That's really our only silver lining of a bad season. But now that we're doing good, it's like, well, damn, we'll probably finish in the middle if we keep playing like this. And then it's just that circle of drafting in the middle, not getting anything really fantastic, and staying in that spot. So, I do want us to succeed. I want the guys to get a good experience, get the wins. But at the same time, like, we kind of need a good pick, like, to really jolt that rebuild. And it's not even a rebuild, but to jolt that rebuild, a top 5 pick this draft would put us way ahead, like that would be huge, because the top 5 in this draft are pretty strong, but it's actually a pretty deep draft. So, we might be fine. But then I'm looking at the year after, and then there's that big prize, right? There's that big prize, the top 2 of Connor Bedard and Matvei Michkov, who are both franchise players. So again, do we want to be bad again next year for a chance at them? Because then we'd have like franchise players. We'd have Suzuki and Caufield who have matured. Just thinking about it makes me giddy. That's crazy. So it's really hard. The next half of the season here is going to be really, really important to figure out, like, okay, where we want to be in the future. Because again, if we pick in the middle, we'll just stay in that cycle of picking in the middle, being a middle team, and we won't get anywhere. So it's hard to tell, man. Hard to tell.
Yeah, it's a tough call because, as a fan, you want to see the team build properly, obviously be committed to the tank. Obviously, the new regime with Gorton and Hughes have been hinting about a rebuild. And, I think it's great to see them playing well, because people are positive all over, fans are positive all over. But, this week you might see them still play some good hockey, but it's hard to predict, I think, long term how the rest of the season is going to go. So I just think, as a fan, you want to, again, like what Shane said, you want them to still at least get a top 5 pick. And every team that's won the cup, the last maybe 10 years or so, they've built through the draft and they've tanked every year. And so you got to probably stick to the tank. But hey, whatever, I'm okay with whatever, So, yeah.
Here's my take on what's going to happen. It's going to be a little bit of a weirder, more of a hot take, but my prediction right now is I think that we could see this team trend sort of upwards towards the deadline. And then once we see the pieces such as Hoffman, Lehkonen, Matthew Perreault, I was about to say Yannick Perreault there, but once Matthew Perreault, even though he hasn't played a game at all, once he's traded, Petrie, Sherratt, Kulak, Weidman, Paquette, once all those guys eventually get traded, we could see this team trend more downwards again, but see more positivity from the youth. So that's kind of my way of seeing things right now. It's just going to be, we're going to get better with the current roster we have since the guys are playing more loose. But then once the deadline hits, we know we're going to be sellers. We're going to sell a lot of players, and then we're going to sort of trend downwards for the rest of the year. But still looking for the positivity of the youth playing, as I'm sure we know how good Caufield's been.
Well said.
There's definitely a lot to look forward to for the rest of the season, especially if we keep playing like this with the trade deadline coming up. So we're not gonna keep you guys for too long. We know everybody's got to work tomorrow. Habs win 5-2 against the Toronto Maple Leafs, 3rd game in a row. Wonderful win for the boys. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, share, get your official Habs Tonight merch on habstonight.net. And tomorrow, the boys and I will be recording a roundtable, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. We're going to be launching it then. be sure to also check out Drew Deek's interview with Nick Kiprios on our channel. If you missed that, he had some pretty hot takes on maybe the future with Josh Anderson and Carey Price. So be sure to check that out. And we are wishing everybody a good night. Boys, thank you so much for hopping on tonight.
Oh yeah,
Thank you.
always a pleasure.
Yeah.
See you later, guys.
See ya.
Okay.